Boom! Live once more on the TruMon Show with my great brother. Sir, how are you?
Very good, Joe.
Good,
Green
good.
smoothie, mate.
Yeah, another hot and humid day in Montreal today. Wow, we're having in the mid 30s pretty much the whole week, so it's getting hot in here. But we're here tonight on the TruMon Show to elaborate on our thoughts that we have made the previous show together. And I would like to go back on the crop circles, like I
Yep.
explained to you, because there's stuff we have said, but it's not really super clear to me. I've re-listened to what we recorded, and you know, if we think about crop circles, like in the 70s, let's go back in the 70s. I'm sure the crop circles were not as elaborated as they are today. And what I think it's the reason for it's that we didn't have the same technology in the 70s than we have in 2020. Look, we have internet. I'm born in 73. There was no internet in my youth growing up and all that. So that kind of world of information coming to us like crazy, like today on the internet, you can pick up anything, crop circles, bring it on, flat earth, anything that you can access to it at your fingertips. So is that a reason why the crop circle have they evolved with the technology? Like also you said that they weren't they were there because we were making them be there. But what exactly is the phenomena you think behind those crop circles? Like what makes them appear? Are they because I saw PT really many videos. He goes in the crop circles and play guitars and all that, and he's there. So they do happen. But what makes them happen? Like you weren't really maybe fully clear. Maybe you have to also follow up on what you said. So that's a great opportunity tonight for you to.
Thanks, mate. Well, I've come from a background back in the 1970s, 1980s. I had an interest in crop circles. I used to talk with people, and because there were things in books. We didn't have internet, as we know, back then, but you know, there were books, and I used to read up on things, and we used to meet up in Theosophical Society groups, and then offshoots of people involved in the music industry, and I'd meet people. So I've had a bit of an interest. I wouldn't say full on, but I've had an interest with them ever since. This question is really a question about what is man, and what is our power, what is our creative ability. Because crop circle is just one window of many windows of our ability to create. What I was talking about last week was this giving an analogy of a hologram, and the creator moved its life inside the hologram or the bubble and set into motion everything that the creator was thinking, dreaming, and gave life. So its breath filled the cow, breath filled everything, and animated everything into real physical life, as we call life today. Now, that's just a linear analogy. And so all the shapes and forms of that power still exist here now as everything we know of nature, of Earth. And even what we have corrupted and altered ever since is still our power as man, because God came as man. So that same power, that's our inheritance given to all of us as co-creators. So the only reason why things are different when we compare something like an almighty God and a man, a little man, is because of what's been done between our ears, the kind of brainwashing and the emotional traumatic stuff that comes with this brainwashing that has, you know, what I mentioned before, it's like the levels, like God came into the dream of life like that, and then we, as man, God created man, created man, we went from that to that through our dreaming. And so we became less and less and less conscious of what the hell we're doing and what we're creating. So if you look at for example, if you look at a sand pit, and there's tools in the sandpit, and we can hop inside the sandpit as kids, and we can start making shapes in the sandpit. No, we can make bucket samples, whatever, castles, whatever we want to make. In that same three-dimensional holographic image, we are creating shapes through our dreaming in the water of our breath, in this domain we call life, inside that. Or if you want to look at it like plasticine, it's like the whole of the dream of life is like plasticine, and we're just making shapes all the time, all right, and passing those shapes on to our kids. So from that kind of perspective, this is how I'm looking at it, is that I'll give another one of the analogy. I should explain another one because it's about the Christian one, where people fall into the image of Jesus, for example, because they were told that Jesus will save you and rescue you and help you. And if you give your life to Jesus, you'll be healed, etc., etc. There's so many phenomena that come with it. A lot of these things are true, and they do actually happen. So, for example, when someone comes across the image of Jesus, and even though there's a story associated with Jesus, a lot of men who've come along and been introduced to it don't know. Sorry about this dog. We have some dogs here. I'm going to have to call out. You're going to have to just hang on. Missy! Hey! Hey! Quiet! I'm sorry. We might have to cut this bit out, mate. Missy! Sorry, mate. We'll cap in. So, going back to Jesus, it's an image. It's a sound we call out. It's a word. It has a picture, or many pictures, and we can call out that image. And everybody who places their sentiments, their dreams, their intentions with that image is passed on down through the generations. So if everyone collectively worked together and believed that Jesus will heal you, you can actually, other people come along to join the Jesus phenomenon of the church or whatever religion, can actually experience the calling out of the dream they're dreaming for their healing. See, the collective power, everyone who's contributed to that dream is resonating. It's resonating in the domain of that dream. So it's a placebo effect. And that's the power. So for example, like when God, being the original man, created air, we're still breathing the original air that God created. But all our ancestors are breathing out air too, because they're breathing in and breathing out water, and that water is the air. And their dreams, their intentions are encoded in the breath. So we can sense, like I can sense your intentions. If I wanted to tune in on Johnny, I can sense your dreaming, no matter where you are, because you've created those plasticine shapes in the domain. And I can access that and connect. And we are communicating actually by doing this through your dreams. See, so we are at the effect of our true power. But if we're not given full disclosure about the bigger picture of how our full power works, we'll think that there's some kind of archetype or some kind of higher power than us, that we've dreamt it that way, is actually doing the healing by giving our life over to Jesus, for example. You follow what I'm saying? So if you're in a congregation in a church, and that congregation been coming together every week for a long time, but they also had grandparents who came to the same congregation as their parents, the power in that church, if all of them believe in it and held it, is so huge that someone can come along who give themselves to Jesus can be healed because they dreamt it that way.
With the reason being for the story of Jesus, because I've said before here on the TruMon, I have elaborated on the Jesus story. And if we look at the word Jesus in French, it's only missing a I. It gives you je suis, I am. So not because they try to project Jesus as being a being, but Jesus is you, it's me, it's everyone. Like je suis, I am. So
exactly.
what is that outside projection all the time that it has to be another being when it's
because
all about us, human.
we are God, you see, and I am in the image of I am. So, like if you look at the Book of Revelations, or sorry, yeah, in the beginning of the Old Testament, you know, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Right now, that actually say I am in the image of what I'm dreaming for, because the Word is just an image.
It's
You
powerful.
think about it.
When you start thinking about it, then you really, because the thing is, in our everyday life, we don't think because we're so mesmerized by distraction that we lose it completely. So it's very, very interesting.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's how we've been manipulated, because we have lost connection with the bigger picture, because we haven't been allowed to be raised by nature to hold the big picture, because the big picture of nature is the good heart of the Creator. And the more we expand the good heart by being raised by nature itself, right? Meaning no one inside our heads defining anything to us, not telling us how to think and feel about anything ever. We form such dreams that are inspired out of the big picture of the good heart. So we can observe a tiny insect, but we're seeing it from the bigger picture because we're holding that bigger picture. And though we can contemplate on the tiniest detail of the most amazing creature we call any insect, they're all amazing, we don't lose sense of our connection. But because of all that pixelations has been done to us, all that shattered reality that's been coming at, because everything's fragmented, because definition, you know, and we're jumping from the hoops, you know, the cult of the hoops of A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, and we practice it and practice it and practice, and that's what we're calling out. We actually gain from one box of pixelation into another box. So we're basically down in the tiny detail where the devil is, where these occultists are mesmerizing us. That's a daffodil and that's yellow. That is a hill. It has a name, you know, Mountain John Hill. You know, yeah. You see, in seconds, we can have hundreds of pixelations unfolding in our dreaming, in our thinking. But they're all tiny detail things. And they're not our dreams. It has nothing to do about our real lives. But we have fallen down to the matrix of this pixelation. And we're all operating inside there. So like when we're talking English, we're down in the tiny details of the pixelations of this calling out of English. But there's more than that going on, because we have internet, we have electronics, we have technology, we have computer, and all the people connected to all this who are involved in its evolution and creation and all that. And then on top of that, there's a house, or in our case, a camper trailer, and everything that happened in the house, and you know, and then there's water coming through the pipes into your house. You know, like there is so much detail in the tiny pixelations, right? That we don't think about the big picture anymore. We're thinking about, oh, I've got to stop now. We've got to stop this interview. We've got to go to work. We've got to make money. I've got to get, you know, because I have these other things I've got to do to pay my bills. So our head is spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning with this fragmented pixelation, like on the monitor, right? So we can't hold the big picture anymore while observing tiny detail. We've actually forgotten the big picture, which is the good heart, where all the sentiments of the good heart is out front. You know, compassion, empathy, respect, do no harm, you know, support, honesty, sincerity, you know, truth. It goes, look, there are so many sentiments of the good heart, right? That all that has fragmented now and it's been shattered down into the tiny details, where we've had to learn to survive the lie of this life, and the Janik's name and Arthur's name. And most of us have been trained to lie. So we actually lie about so many things and committing fraud about this lying, because we're claiming all these things, these pixelations, these definitions to be true, when they're not true at all. But worse than that, we're saying that the system, or this is the way it is the best we can be. And, you know, and we've been brought up like that in books and stories and in kindergarten and preschool. And it's just, we're compounded, and with everyone else around us also being got at, we think this is it. This is the best we can be. And so we've dreamt ourselves being fallen. We don't think of it like that, but we're in the pixelations of all the tiny details, unable to hold a big picture all the while. So we can't sense what's going on. So when we talk about crop circles, we're only seeing it through the pixelations of our ability to grasp what we can grasp, because the pixelations is as far as we can hold a picture, which is pretty hard because you're relying on other men and women telling you how to think and feel all the time, and keep going to other men and women to tell you how to keep thinking and feeling. And we call them professors and academics and scientists and researchers and, you know, educators and us, even us, you and me. People come to us to listen to what we're saying. You see, so we trap ourselves, and we'll actually fight for the prison of these pixelations of definitions that are just so connected and tied to each other, sentence by sentence, because it is a prison sentence. You're in a sentence. You've been sentenced, and and then when you talk about paragraphs and all this stuff, it's all the box. We're inside boxes of the matrix, and we're operating out of the box of Arthur and Janik and all these pixelations that we hold on to. So if we don't have a bigger picture and can see as to how this phenomenon is working, we won't comprehend what in the shadows, these people and what they've been doing is meddling with us, and still meddling with us with coronavirus and behind the scenes of Hollywood and the movies coming out and social media. And I mean, look, social media is another one, Janik. We're chopping from this to that, to this, to that, to this, to that, to this, to that. It's just the pixelate, it's fragmented. We're so fragmented. So we can't hold the big picture anymore. So when we're brought up by nature and we can hold that big picture and it's uncorrupted, we can zoom in to tiny detail without losing the big picture, without giving up the good heart, you know? And that to me was the great message of the true man, whoever that man was, whatever happened back then that they now call Jesus and, you know, and all that stuff. It would have been just someone going, they would have had him on the cross crucifying this guy, butchering him, and he didn't care. You can kill me, do whatever you like, but you're the one, you're all dying. You're down in the pixelations of this hell. You killed his body, but who I am doesn't end at the surface of my skin. I am not, I'm just his body. I'm a bigger picture here, and I love you, and I forgive you. And he's saying, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they do, you know, and because he's embracing them from such a big picture, which is God, what we were gifted with, the true power. And though these people might have been laughing at him and, you know, others scorning him and whipping him and belting him and putting spears into him and until he dies and they kill him on the cross, he's not the one who's died. They have all died because they don't know who they are. They're all trapped down in the pixelations and have not woken up. And he's surrendered his life. He gave them a gift to help them to remember who they are. Come back to the bigger picture. I'm your brother, you know, I'm your sister. You know, I'm your equal partner. We don't need to be like this, right? So that would have been the reason. The power of this is why in the stories of the Bible were twisted about why you have Christians in the Colosseum being killed by the lions and the gladiators and that, because they didn't care. They weren't in fear. They just weren't going to sell out. They're not going to die because they know who they really are. So that carries on. But if you have fallen down and that's all you are and that's all you know, you die there. And if it's all you've got in your head are definitions and nothing else, you've never created any dream at all unique to you, you're gone forever. And that's what the true message of the man looking down over all of them and saying to them, you know, why do you want to be like this? We can be better than this. We are better than this. And showed them a way out. You see, that were twisted by the occultists. The occultists have twisted all this because the symbol of the crucified man on the cross is everyone they've got and pixelated and brought them down into the pits of hell of this lost, forgotten state that we're in, where we're all manipulated and used and abused, raped, pillaged and plundered, and as slaves, cogs in the wheels of the system, where we give all our power away to these people, right? So that symbol, the crucified man and all that, is every single one brought up in the system, trapped in that pixelation. That's how it's been twisted. But look,
that symbol is powerful because people wear it in their neck, the cross.
Yeah, exactly, because they're the perfect slave. They're the perfect slaves, and they will fight to protect the slave system. All the while, they already believe they're going to have an afterlife with their savior, their God, whatever. But after life is death. There's no life after life. Either it's life here and now or it ain't, you know. Either you really have the big picture and you can hold, and that's why we're supposed to be brought up by nature, where we can form dreams inspired by nature. That's our soul. That's who we truly are. And there's no God inside our heads telling us what we are. Just given us the amazing dream of life for us to uniquely create the unique soul, the original man. We're supposed to be each of us original. So going to this bigger picture and comprehending this is happening because of our free will, because we have intention, because the intention is derived of our free will, which has thoughts, has dreams. And we talk about how thoughts are dreams and dreams are thoughts. We create images, shapes from those intentions that we are inspired. And we set those images into motion in the domain, in the bubble, where they permeate forever. And any descendant can tune in to your life, to our life, and find out what we were dreaming for and why we did, why we made that table. You know, what was the purpose of that table? So it's not just a table, there's a bigger picture behind the table, you know, as an example. So there's many things we create, we can tune to a bigger picture. And this really is what today is called sacred sites. Even though the whole of the dream of life is sacred, and there's no one place more sacred than another, because everything is sacred. When we tune in to our parents and ancestors and all that, we can attune to the sacred side of their life, their domain, and call them out, bring them forward to inspire us with their dreaming. Now, that's all the celestial bodies in the sky, every star, everything you're looking at, all our ancestors still holding the big picture of the dream of life. They never died. And their intention, that amazing love for holding, is still holding the dream of life right now in co-creation with all of original man, with all of God. You see, so that's what we're calling out for. But we've forgotten, because now the pixelation tell us, oh, that's a solar system and they're galaxies and they're comets and all this stuff, when it's not. It's just life, creating life of life. We're looking at life, the consciousness of life. Everything is the consciousness of life. You get that? So it's undefined. It's not lineal. It's not, they're not constructs and concepts when we're looking at galaxies and universes. They're clusters of soul groups, of souls, of families, of lives. And when we climb the mountains in elation, you know, when we are doing whatever we do with nature and we are just so inspired, that love we call out, we're calling them too, because they're still holding the dream of the mountains. We're still holding the dream of everything of creation. And that's why the occultists created chemtrails. That's why occultists created all the weather modification, because see, the weather is in our dream. We create the weather because we dream it by our intentions. We went from a paradise weather to this awful corrupted weather. And we're dreaming it that way because we set into motion emotions, trauma, you know, the self-obsession of anger, rage, jealousy, covetousness, loneliness, emptiness, despair, distrust. You know, every single emotion that's not of the good heart, that was created out of ritual sacrifice by this shit that came out of alphabets, is the weather, is what we call, you know, hailstorms and lightning strikes, and because it is a collective power that we create in present sense always. So we're actually calling out to us the experience of what was set into motion, the collective anger, the collective fear, the collective distrust, you know, the collective doubt, uncertainty, the collective fantasy, illusion, delusion. You know, we are at the effect in present sense to everything that we are calling out. We're the only ones here. And whatever we've created with it, that's the only thing that's here. So crop circles is the same thing, Johnny. You can enter into a dream and then pass that dream on through words to another man who can also be calling out the dreams of the mathematical configurations and all that. This goes back into the old esoterics of the occults, of the alchemy, and all their mysteries they kept secret, which is all embedded in mathematics and geometry and all that stuff. Because if you look at the compass and square, the symbol of Freemason, right? You've got the G in the middle, and the G, right, is God, but it's the God of the intention for one world government. So that God is Jesus, or, you know, because Zeus is one world government. Jesus or Jesus is just a landlord, a one figurehead power over the whole of earth. The Antichrist is just one man representing the pyramid structure of all that bloodline family with the intention for complete power and control over all of man all across earth. And so that was encoded in the Bible, and it was passed down as an intention, encoded in the Bible. So we went from the Old Testament of overt slavery, using this symbol archetype of Moses, into the New Testament of covert slavery. So we went from Egypt, the system of overt slavery, into the current Western world system of covert slavery, from overt to covert. And so the transition, and across the 40 days of the desert, 40 years and all that, they're all symbolisms of this, what's been done inside our heads, this brainwashing through our generations of our ancestors up to us, and what we're going to do to our kids and what we pass on. See, so that image of the Bible is what we set into motion and give it power. And if we don't know what it is we're giving power to, because we're caught up just giving love to Jesus because we love Jesus, and we don't see the bigger picture of the Bible itself, all our life energy is directed to all these other places too, benefiting all those who are holding this dream of the Bible. Because it's at end times, right? It's a grand plan, the G, grand plan, right? Grand deception. So, you know, let's like the word goal, the G, goal. Owl, owl, goal. The goal, their goal is the G, owl. The goal. You follow? Yeah. This is what these people do in their phonetics and etymology. So we don't realize the power of our life energy and its effect when we direct it into things that we've accepted as part of our reality. And we call it upon us, because when you call out, you're creating, you're calling it out. Well, it's just like we call our ancestors when we love the mountains, and when we look at a bird or a butterfly, we're actually calling out to all our ancestors, because they're all part of the co-creation of the dream of life that you're experiencing now. That life is their life that you are living as this life. And your descendants' life is your life, and the life of everyone we've co-created, because we're breathing air, putting air every time as water, and all that intention, all that collective dreaming. So packing it all in as small as I can. It's a lot of plasticine work going on in here. We're all shaping and creating models, you know. So in the same way, that placebo effect, Johnny, we're just calling out to the images that came into our consciousness. You know, like when we talk about animation of cartoons, and you have someone gives you a film, and you put it in the projector, put the projector light on, and light blows onto the cinema screen, and you turn on the roll of film, and going through the roll of film is the animation on screen. You're watching this animation. Now that's exactly who we are, what we are. You get scripts or scriptures put in your head. You're calling out these images, and your life energy is the illumination. This is the occultist illumination of the all-seeing eye. I am that I am. You see, because we are the ones creating everything. We don't realize that we're creating it all. So we subject ourselves to slavery because we're creating that. When they call you in the courtrooms, they call out your name, they're calling out their subject if you are their subject. That's why this man pulled out of the system and doesn't operate in their will under their name. I haven't been in their system since 2006 because I am not their slave. I've refused to support their dream. That's why I pulled out. So I don't have tax file number. I don't have credit card. I don't get government handouts. I don't have Medicare. I don't have anything. I just have my wife who carries all that, but she gives her good heart to me and gives me shelter and allows her to do what I do. And that was her free will choice, as is this man's free will choice. So we work one in, one out. So in that same way, when we're calling out our power, we've got to be conscious of what the hell we're creating and what we're calling to us. So just because we sit experiencing crop circles and we can play guitars and sit down inside the crop circle and be made, doesn't mean that all the storytelling that came with crop circles of some higher power, other beings and other dimensions, or you won't know until you die and go there, that you'll know the truth of it. This is all part of the phenomenons of the mysteries of the occults, right? The truth is there is no secrets. There are no secrets. It's just that we've been lied to, and we're living the lie and blinded by the lie, by the illumination of these lies. We can't see the bigger picture because we've never been able to go to the bigger picture and create it as kids to look back at it and say, oh, hang on, that's just that. Oh, that's just Bill and Judy from, 45 generations ago who dreamt that, and they did that to their kids, and then it was passed down. And so the calling out appears as the crop circles before us today. But it's a lot more sinister than that, because it actually comes out of the occults, of all the occulters who've dreamt this, gave it power. Well, you know the story. People said they have seen blood come out of the stone of Jesus, or they've seen the tears of the Virgin Mary coming out of the rock of the statue of the Virgin Mary. These are all true because we actually create it. It's a collective energy of all of us who've given our lives over to that. So the same thing happens with crop circles. We've just entered into a dream, in the dream of life, where those intentions are in that domain. We've now called out. We've summoned it. We've summoned it like in a summons, when you receive a summons to go to court. We've summoned it. But what we don't realize, we've called everyone involved up until that point to come to us and create the physical manifestation of that image. And if we have accepted it, we give it power, we will create it. And this is what the occultists do to us, Janik. Just I'll wind up here quickly. They do it because while we're so dumbed down and stupid, we keep thinking only from the pixelation. We can't comprehend the bigger picture of how this malevolence is really working to deceive us into this phenomenon. You see, you are the only one, you as man are the only one to the experience of crop circle. And anyone who talks about crop circle is a man to the experience of crop circle. It's not crop circle coming forward to us to talk to us about crop circle. It's always a man talking to us about crop circle. And that's how it's always been, because we are the only one to the power. So when you had in the old days a man who traveled from village to village, and he was a puppeteer, he had a carriage, he would pull up and the children would all come around and sit around, and he would do his Punch and Judy puppet show, right? And then when he finished, whatever business was done amongst the villagers, he'd leave to the next village. So he would take that dream to the next village, and all the kids would congregate and experience it. Well, that's just how the occults work. They bring the images to you, into your head, to entertain you, but they don't give you full disclosure of how this manifestation works. We create it. Look, what's the difference between building a house and then say, God, I want to make the same house again and again? You have the architectural plans. And it becomes a building company, and they call it, Hudson's Building, and some grandfather started it. And now they've got great-grandchildren who can carry on still selling the same drawings to build homes for people in their suburbs from the same plans and manifesting the same house, or just modification to the same house, just as you can modify crop circles. It's the same thing, because we're the only one present to the plan. We're the only ones present to the architectural drawings, and we're the only ones present to the architectural manifestation of it too. You see, because we're the only one to the experience. The only difference is between the building plans of a house and the crop circle, we're not given full disclosure of how the occultists, who are a man, are manipulating us into deceiving you to think that there's aliens and other higher powers out there.
But that's where I was going. I'm glad you mentioned the alien, but our ability to create, as we can say, evolved from the 1900, even from today. So we are able, like you say, maybe make crop circles, or we're able to make airplanes, computers, all of that stuff. I have no clue how it works, but I can use it. Like I have a computer here. Don't ask me how it works inside, but I can work the outside of the computer, the stuff. So there's a lot of things like that. And will that be the next thing coming, creating an alien invasion out of holograms and stuff they're gonna project in the sky, or maybe they're gonna make. I know they have flying saucers and all that, the NASA and the U.S. Army, no? But I'm talking about stuff maybe more holographic and that.
Yeah, like Project Bluebeam. The Project Bluebeam's been around for a long time, and a lot of people have woken up to it. And I remember from like even 15 years ago, it was spreading heavily across email networks as the internet was growing, and people became more aware because Project Bluebeam is all this NASA or military industrial complex technology of satellites that work together to form shapes, and there is evidence of how they do that. So there's actually no different to the weather modifications coming out of HARP and how we generate HARP to change the weather and all that, and manipulate weather and create droughts or create rain, floodings and all this stuff. I think that all this is all connected to our true power. Just got to remember that it's only man to HARP, it's only man to chemtrails, it's only man to Project Bluebeam, it's only man to aliens. We're the only ones here animating all the scripts.
I find curious also is we're able to predict the weather. You say we create weather modification and all that, but we're also capable of predicting the weather. Like sometimes they go 15 days in advance. Okay, it's not super accurate, but it gives you like the temperatures are always pretty much accurate. Maybe more windy or rain one day or something, but they still predict the weather. So
there's nothing unusual about that, Johnny, because if you go back to the dream of life, to that lineal analogy about God coming into the dream of life and brought life into the dream to set everything into motion, there's the sun shining. And the sun shining is God calling out, God being the original man, us, calling out the love of the dream of life and the joy. So while we love nature and love earth, not worship it, while we love it, that life energy keeps bouncing back as the sun, giving light over the dream of our experience that we love so much. You see, if you as a child growing up dream for a partner, and you hold that dream, and you then meet that partner who also had that dream for a partner, right? And we're brought up by nature, the big picture. That light comes together to form the wholeness, that synergy of that relationship. And that light lives while they love the dream of their life, the dream of life that they dreamt for in that union, because they created it. So when they create a child in nature, they don't have system stuff in their heads because they're in nature. They're God, they're undefined. So when they create the dream for their child and they dream everything out, because they're dreaming everything out before they create the child, before they come together in union. And that's the only reason why we're supposed to be doing it. Well, that's the real power of our creation in union, to create the child. When we create that child, as long as we love that dream, love that child, the sun shines over the life of the child. And while we love our wife, or our wife loves us, the light shines over us. But if one of us stopped to love the other, we give up that love. We stop serving that love, that life. The sun will fade away and die and be no more. Because there's nothing there. It's gone. They walked away from it. They gave it up. And that's the whole system, is part of that pixelation. People do it all the time. They can't hold a dream of life and create a magnificent relationship that has no emotion involved in it and experience that from that big picture, right? There's nothing mystical about this. There's nothing, there's no spiritual mountain to climb. It's something built into all of us. We've all got this ability here and now. It's just that while we love the dream of life, the dreams of life, our life, the sun shines because we give it life energy and we're calling it out all the time. So it's the same thing going back to these things we're talking about with crop circles and all these things. While we love the mysticism, the storytelling and all the fascinations and all that suck us in, and the temptations, we're giving light, giving life, and the sun of our life energy of that dream is held over the crop circles. So the same as the weather. While we love the dream of life and we do it from the bigger picture of the good heart, we don't have hurricanes, we don't have cyclones, we don't have tornadoes, we don't have hailstorms, we don't have ferocious, vicious, nasty weather and dark, dark stuff. because we're not dreaming things like that. And when all around us are doing the same, you know, the term, just to talk, so to speak, we're in paradise. We're creating a magnificent paradise, and the weather's consistent. And it's sunny every day and warm and a lovely temperate climate, because everything's temperate, because the good heart is temperate. But we've fallen into doubt, uncertainty, confusion. So we've got that kind of weather now. And
So
that's pretty consistent.
if we go back to the crop circles, for example, we take crop circles, can be any other phenomena happening on Earth. If we are the only one here, everything that's happening on Earth is by man,
Yeah.
right?
And all the ancestors involved in that dream.
Okay, but how does it? Okay, we're not getting full disclosure on everything. I know that, but how can this happen? Something so big, so precise. I know the computer is the same thing. It's big and it's small and precise, but like I don't see it impossible for men to create something like that, because I have a computer in front of me. I talk to you. You're in Australia, like this, amazing. Like you would have told me that in 1980, I would have said, "Come on, this is going to be revolutionary. This is going to change the world." Blah, blah, blah. But now I think, you know, it's getting really weird. Not weird, but strange what's happening with all these phenomena. And we, like you say, we always look for something. We don't look for man of the phenomena happening, but always an external source. Like, for example, crop circles would be higher power, higher entity on higher dimension, or you know, we go far when we start fantasizing. So why exactly can't we focus on creating all this?
Well, again, it's all part of the confusion, not knowing who we really are. You know, we don't know what the I am is still. We've still forgotten that, you know, how more expansive we can be in our dreaming, and the responsibility, the full responsibility that comes with that kind of power. Because that's what it is, because, you know, free will is full responsibility. God means full responsibility for everything we think, feel, and do. So it's not an archetype, something, you know, outside of it. It's just the power and the responsibility to do no harm, and that life is a gift. And if we come from the big picture, then everything we instill is that always, and that is precise, that is consistent, that is counted on. So that's no different to a child being exposed to the precise story of Superman, and the child sitting there looking at the pictures as dad's reading the story of Superman to the child for the very first time. And the child is getting all the precise information of what goes on in the life of Superman or Batman or whatever you want, whatever, something man, Spider-Man. So the child can take on that information, that scripture, that script, and precisely dress up as Superman and play as Superman in present sense. But it's all coming from the scripts of that precise story. And if the child is very dedicated, the child will come across as a perfect Superman in that way, playing it out, including what I said in other videos. When it comes across the kryptonite, the child is paralyzed, you know, and it can't do anything. It's just, oh, that's part of my script. I have to act now. I'm not Superman right now. I've lost my power. Mate, it's the same as crop circles. It's just a script. The animation of the child presenting Superman to its own fantasy, you know, like the child's on stage for its own I am, performing its own thing. Yeah, sometimes maybe a brother or sister or friend or a neighbor or mum or dad will come down and watch the child play. And the child grows up, we can play in front of 100,000 people and be Superman on stage, on props.
There's
But that
image attached to the script also.
yes, exactly.
Because before, also the movies era and stuff, we had books to read, and now you know, they took those books, put them on the screen and stuff, so the script come with something visual. So
Yeah, because they're exactly, because they're all images. Words are images. Letters, words, sentences, paragraphs, chapters, acts, you know, are images. And all scriptures and all scripts, all storytelling are images played out. So we can enter into the image and physically manifest through our acting the image, right? So Shakespeare, you can learn to become a Shakespeare actor and become very good at it. It's no different to the crop circles, become very good with crop circles and be a researcher behind crop circles. The same script, the same manifestation happens. It's just that we are so disconnected from the bigger picture to see how we create the stage that physically forms what we call out as the crop circle.
Okay,
You
for
see,
sure, crop circles, okay, if we go created by men and stuff, it's not a guy getting drunk on the side of the street that thinks
no,
creating crop circles.
no.
What kind of human uh, does that? Like, this is interesting now because there's possibly on Earth humans with what we call superpowers or something to create something so magnificent.
When I was a kid, the only way I can explain, when I was a kid, I remember being exposed to some horror stories. And I remember at night being woken up during the night out the window, and I could see this entity coming to scare me. And I used to get frightened about this thing trying to come inside and wanting to come and hurt me and kill me or whatever. And I'll never forget that. And when I was a growing teenager, I dropped some mushrooms, and I was in a car. And only this time it was a lot more 3D like. I saw this entity coming outside. It didn't come into the car, but it was around the car, and it was horrific. And it wanted to come and kill me, right? Now, when I look back on all of this, the scripts that I was exposed to, the memories of those scripts, of those imprints, of those images, I was recalling. So something triggered. It doesn't matter what it is that triggered it. It's like if I put the picture of you, if I drag you, I'm the hypnotist on stage, and you're a willing subject, and I make you into a pig, I can make you the pig, and you follow and be the pig until I go, no, now you're a horse, now you're a giraffe, right? It's the same thing about this stuff. We can switch on and off, but what we don't see, because we're down in the pixelations where everything's so fragmented, the bigger picture of the occultists, who have manipulated all this in the first instance to introduce fear into our dreaming and doubt and uncertainty and confusion and just to make us come down, to fall away from the big picture. So they could then collectively manipulate us like a pentagram. For example, I've experienced this with the pentagram as well, where a group of people can come together and call out and watch something move up or down. I've seen this with my own eyes. And I know we did this. We have this power. But say the occultists, they work together in their rituals and their ritual sacrifice, and they do it all kind of working with man's power. And they can summon the power of seduction into the horror of whatever it is contained in what we're summoning. So it could be fear. It could be the devil itself embodied as some. It could be whatever. It could even be Pan, an archetypal natural entity. But they are thought forms, images that are formed into physical form, no different to a child who wears the Superman costume, who turns Superman into a physical form through its fantasy of play and acting. So we have the power to summons. But what we don't get it is that those who started all this in the first instance, this dreaming, are the ones they're like master puppeteers pulling at the strings of belief behind the curtains of all those who got sucked in and manipulating them and directing them all to go down the road where they want them to go, and none of them in that group, even in a pentagram, are conscious of. So basically, all those who fall into the occults are being manipulated by this same method, by a tiny few people, and probably within that tiny few people by one man who passed it on to the next one. So the secret and the secrecy of how this works is compartmentalized. Information given on a need-to-know basis. So you only know what you know at any level until you're invited up to the next level and be revealed more of the scam. Until you go full circle to the very top and realize, oh, this is baby stuff. It's just baby stuff. We all can do this anytime, ever, because we are I am. And what we dream for, we are creating. So, you know, giving us the story of galaxies and universes and other dimensions and levels and planes and gods and the mythologies of all the ancient gods of Zeus and all that, and Odin and all of that, you know, all the stuff behind the mysticism of ancient Egypt and ancient Greece. And right, we're not given full disclosure of the man and the men and women holding those dreams, those intentions, and their purpose to control and manipulate others in secrecy. It's where there was no full disclosure. So here and now, we can be manipulated by those in the occults who summon a crop circle, yet alone the physical manifestation of satellites with laser technology. It doesn't matter how. It's all the same black magic. It all comes out of black magic because we're the only ones doing it. We can manipulate a wheat belt, a barley belt, you know, a grain belt, and form shapes in it. No different to what we summon up as something that comes out of a pentagram and raising it up. And people who come across it, or someone who might be in on the scam, been told where it was and flew over with an aeroplane, took shots of it, right? And then others then came and walked in it and then played guitars in it. It's inconsequential. But we have had over 100 years of manipulation about alien stuff now, at least 100 years, because the alien stuff began in the 1800s. The intense stuff, because you can see, I saw these in the books in the Theosophical Society. So even though there are carvings and drawings inside our Aboriginal caves where they do drawings of what look like men in spacesuits and all that, to me, they are the same imprints of those intentions going back to the First World Order. Next video, maybe we get into this stuff, mate. This is what I'm starting to get like this is, because I think that we're just repeating something that already happened once before, but we're getting
but that's what I
deceived.
was going to tell you. We're going to stop this one there, and the next one we have together, we're going to look more at us being co-creator, because what you said tonight resonated deep within me, and I'm going to think a lot about it and observe. And like you said, you were talking about the stars before. If we have created everything on Earth and we're the only ones here, the stars are part of it, the sun, everything. So everything that surrounds us, up, down. So I want to get more into it, like the co-creation of life, because I think also that's what you say on your Facebook page, co-creation or something like that.
Because we are. The thing is that why we have so many millions of brothers and sisters today calling out to stop deforesting the mountain, to stop this injustice, that injustice, because deep down, what they're really saying is, we don't want to pass the inheritance of destruction onto the next generation. We don't want to live in the devastation of the oceans and all that. Now, there will be other generations who also do that. So they're thinking about the bigger picture to make sure that that is passed on. They may not be rationalizing it like that, but that's where it's coming from, because there's a bigger picture. Why do no harm? So in that same way, when we look at this occults and all that, it's the same thing. We just don't see the bigger picture as to how we're calling out the intentions of the occultists of previous generations to continue to mesmerize us and bamboozle us and discombobulate our brains here and now, because we've accepted their images in our head, because we're the ones creating the dumbed down, stupid man in a prison and fighting for it and keeping ourselves in there, because there's no one else here to do it. So it is a collective co-creation. And we're summoning our descendants to carry on, pass like a relay. Okay, kids, we're all dumb and stupid. We're going to pass it on to you now. But if you come from a bigger picture, even if it's just a sentiment, some part of it, we want to pass on non-deforested forests. We want to fix a green earth, you know, pass that on as a relay, the baton, and run with that. We give you that inheritance. Now we come as those children, or that some of us may dream to come back and be those kids in those lives. You see, so it's just man to the experience, Johnny. It's always man to the experience, and all of man is God in co-creation of what we're all collectively dreaming. So we are all at the effect of each other. So we've just given up the full responsibility not to do harm. You know, we've given that up, and we've fallen into the pixelations of so much crap that we're doing harm all the time, but we don't have a bigger picture that makes us conscious enough to go, we've got to stop this until someone comes along and rattles the cages, you know. And it might be Greenpeace, even though Greenpeace is controlled by the Rockefellers and all that, but it takes watching a video of the slaughter of the seals to say people go, I don't want to support this. So anything that comes from seal production, no matter what, we just don't buy it, boycott. So it's the same thing, you know, pass the baton on. So just watch out for the malevolent intent of manipulation of the occultists with crop circles. And
it's because also, like you said, we're always caught in the cult of oops. So
well, that's what this is.
If you're trapped in there, it's a oops after hoop, and you never, unless you have,
never stops.
Exactly.
The cult of hoops, mate. And that's in our heads.
I'm out.
Yeah, watch out for the cartoon. Watch out for the cartoon of the cult of hoops. Animating and illuminating.
And in the chat for listening, watching, and we will. I think Missy is being attacked by a big Rottweiler there. Better go watch her.
There are two dogs that there are 4 dogs here that are not our dog. We have our 2 dogs here, but yeah, the others that we're working on them. We're working on them. Slowly. Hopefully, it's not too bad, the barking.
So I'll see you soon again, and we're up. See ya.